Some tracks don't just lead through the snow. They lead you to a moment that asks what kind of human you're willing to be. Out here, where the cold decides everything, walking away is always an easier choice. What he found that morning made leaving impossible. The axe bit into frozen pine with sharp crack that echoed through the white silence, a sound too loud for a world buried under snow. Frost clung to the ranger's beard as he worked, breath rising in slow clouds that drifted away on the wind. The cold was deep and unforgiving, the kind that settled into bone and thought. But he kept swinging. His cabin needed wood, and the coming storm would not wait for comfort or caution. He worked farther from home than he liked, following the last standing dead trees along the slope. Experience told him when to turn back. Yet necessity pressed harder than instinct. The woodpile behind his cabin was empty, and the sky carried a flat, heavy look that always came before days of whiteout. He loaded the cut logs onto his sled, muscles burning beneath thick layers, and pulled it forward through snow that creaked underfoot. He was almost ready to head back when something crossed the trail ahead of him. He stopped without thinking, one gloved hand tightening on the rope. Tracks cut across the fresh snow, still sharp at the edges, still warm in a way only a living body could leave behind. At first glance, they looked familiar, but the longer he studied them, the more wrong they felt. A healthy snow leopard moved with purpose. Its prints were spaced wide, confident, clean. These were not. The impressions were shallow, as if the animal lacked the strength to press fully into the snow. The spacing was uneven, drifting closer together in places, dragging slightly as though the body above them had begun to fail. The trail did not wander or hunt. It led straight toward the exposed cliffs. The ranger felt a tightening low in his stomach, the kind that came when the mountains whispered a warning. In this weather, no animal stumbled unless something had already gone terribly wrong.
It's okay, beautiful cat.
He told himself to return to the sled.
I won't hurt you.
To finish his work and leave the rest of the
right.
rules of the wild. But his feet moved before the thought could settle, following the line of tracks up the ridge. The wind grew sharper as he climbed, cutting through his jacket and filling his ears with a steady roar.
Easy now.
Snow stung his face.
That's a good cat.
Each step demanded more effort than the last.
Everything is all right.
When the tracks disappeared around a rocky outcrop, he slowed,
Easy
heart
now.
thudding harder than the climb required.
That's a good cat.
He edged forward and looked around the
Everything is
snow.
all right.
The snow leopard lay on bare rock beneath a shallow overhang, her great body trembling uncontrollably.
It's okay, beautiful cat.
Ice crusted her fur,
I won't hurt
clinging
you.
to the pale rosettes along
Everything
her flank.
is all right.
Her breathing was shallow and uneven, each breath misting weakly in the cold air. As he took in her shape, his eyes were drawn to the heavy swell of her belly, stretched tight beneath her ribs. She was close to giving birth, and she was out of time. Her head lifted slightly at his presence, not in challenge, but in slow acknowledgement. Her eyes were dull with exhaustion, yet still aware, still searching. She did not bare her teeth or pull back her ears. She simply watched him, as if measuring the last of her strength. The ranger stood still, the mountains holding their breath around them. He understood then that if she remained on that rock, neither she nor her cubs would survive the night. The storm was coming, and mercy was not among its promises. He felt the weight of responsibility settle quietly, heavier than the snow pressing down around them, both there. He stayed where he was for a long moment, letting the wind pass over him and settle again. The snow leopard lay unmoving except for the tremor running through her flanks, a deep shudder that spoke of fatigue more than fear. He knew what she was capable of, knew how quickly claws and teeth could turn a man into meat. Yet nothing in her posture carried threat. What he saw instead was a body pushed past its limit, a mother burning the last of herself against the cold. Leaving her there felt like turning away from something sacred, even if walking closer meant risking everything he had. He lowered himself slowly, boots careful against the rock, and spoke in a voice he barely recognized his own. It was steady and quiet, shaped to soothe rather than command. The leopard's ears flicked once, then settled. Her eyes never left him, but they held no fire. When he reached out, he stopped short, let his presence exist before his touch. Minutes stretched thin in the cold. Then, with a breath that seemed to empty her entirely, she allowed him closer, her massive frame yielding as though trust was the only strength she had left. Getting her onto the sled took patience and strength in equal measure. He slid his arm beneath her chest and hindquarters, feeling the heat trapped under a frozen coat. surprised by how little resistance she offered. She went limp in his hold, a surrender that tightened his throat. He wrapped the tarp around her body, shielding her from the wind, then leaned forward and pulled. The sled lurched and scraped, inch by inch. Behind him, he heard her breathing change, quickening, sharpening. Each sound a reminder that time was thinning fast.
Nearly gone.
The storm closed around them as he began the descent. Snow drove sideways,
Leans forward,
stinging his face
burning.
and stealing the horizon. Every step demanded focus as the sled fought against drifts and hidden rock. His legs burned, lungs aching, but he did not stop. Between
right,
gusts,
bring it
he could
down
hear the
slowly.
leopard behind him, a low,
Set.
strange sound rising from her chest. Her body shifted on the sled,
Perfect.
muscles tightening,
Secured.
then
Easy
easing
now,
again.
set it down
He
gently.
spoke to her without
Got
thinking.
it.
Words
Looks
lost in the
secure.
wind, but carried by intent, as though sound itself mattered less than staying present together. When the cabin finally emerged with glowing snow, relief came quietly without triumph. He dragged the sled across the threshold and shut the door against the storm, the sudden stillness ringing in his ears. Heat from the fire pressed into the room, and he worked quickly, laying blankets, easing her onto the floor with care. Her breathing was faster now, shallow and urgent, her body tightening with each wave that passed through her. He stepped back, giving space, heart pounding as he understood the truth of what he had done. Fear was still there, but it no longer ruled him. Mercy had taken its place, steady and irreversible, and whatever followed would be faced together, human and wild, bound by a choice already made. He listened to the storm batter the walls while the leopard labored in silence, aware that survival was no longer an abstract idea, but a shared, breathing thing inside the room. Outside, the mountains remained indifferent, but within that small cabin, warmth, patience, and respect shaped a fragile refuge, one earned not by dominance, but by the simple decision to care when walking away would have been easier. It felt like the beginning of a story neither of them would ever forget in silence tonight. Heat from the fire settled into the cabin, thawing air and bone alike, while the snow leopard labored in quiet focus. She shifted on the blankets, muscles rolling beneath her coat as each contraction tightened and passed. The ranger stayed back, keeping his movements small, listening to crackle of logs and her measured breaths. When the first cub arrived, it did so quickly, a slick bundle pressed into the world by instinct older than mountains. The mother bent immediately, licking with steady urgency, drawing breath and life into the tiny body without hesitation or fear that night alone. The second cub followed moments later, louder, demanding, its cry filling the room before being pulled close. Relief softened the ranger's shoulders, but it did not last. The third arrived silent, resting too still against a rug, its small chest unmoving. The mother nudged, a low sound trembling from her throat, and then looked toward the man as if asking something she could not name. He stepped in carefully, hands gentle and deliberate, rubbing warmth back into fragile skin, breathing hope into the smallest space he could find. Minutes stretched until a gasp finally came, and life answered quietly again. The cub stirred and squeaked, and the cabin seemed to exhale with it. He handed the newborn back, watching the mother gather all three close, her purr deep and steady, vibrating through the floor. By morning, the storm loosened its grip, light finding the window in pale bands. A rescue team arrived with a crate, calm and practiced, and the family was moved gently for care before release. The leopard paused once, meeting the ranger's eyes, not in farewell but acknowledgement, then settled again. The cabin felt empty yet quietly complete as winter breathed outside, patient and vast again tonight. Time passed, smoothing the sharp edges of memory. The ranger returned to routines, patrolling ridges, mending tools, stacking wood. He thought of the leopard less often, though sometimes tracks crossed his thoughts like shadows. Another winter arrived harsher than the last, snow laying bridges over hidden ravines. On a familiar line he stepped, heard a crack, and the ground vanished. The fall stole his breath and twisted his leg, pain blooming bright and immediate. Darkness pooled as cold began its quiet work. His radio failed, and night pressed closer with each shallow breath. He fought to stay awake, listening alone. Footsteps crunched above him, pulling him back from drifting. He called out, voice thin, shapes appeared at the rim. Moonlight revealed a mother snow leopard, grown cubs flanking her, strong and alert. Fear rose, then ease as none moved to attack. The mother looked into them and gave a sharp bark. Instantly, the young ones scattered along the ridge and lifted their voices, yowls cutting the air, carrying far beyond the ravine, urgent yet unmistakable. The sound felt deliberate, protective, and strangely familiar to him as it echoed until help stirred and engines answered distant. At last, rescuers arrived, light slicing the dark, and found him below, shaking but alive. As they hauled him free, he searched the tree line. The leopards stood together on a rock, watching without sound. The mother met his gaze and dipped her head. A small, deliberate motion, then turned away. The family slipped back into shadow, leaving the mountains quiet again. Later, healed and home, the ranger carried a steadier faith. That kindness travels, remembered by the wild, and sometimes returned. It asked nothing, only to be offered freely once. And when given, it closed a circle in fear, pain, or time.